Yo, what up, Lou Know It? Hope the audio is good enough. I decided I gotta wait around for a little bit. Might as well make a video. I'm right by the FDR, so hopefully you can hear me. I'll play it back and see. Anyway, so this video is gonna be about my some of my favorite movies and why I like them, and this will give you an idea of like sort of how I rate movies and what my tastes are, and then if this channel grows and if I end up getting people watching my reviews, they'll now have a base like, okay, now I know what this guy's likes are and stuff. So I'll start with Shawshank Redemption because I saw the 25th anniversary release of it recently, and I have to say it held up. So I would normally say that movie's a top 5 movie for me, top 10 definitely. And basically what I like about it is I love the story, I love the characters. It's definitely melodramatic. It definitely paints prison in a pretty way that I'm not sure. I mean, it also has scenes talking about how it institutionalizes you and it takes your life away, but it paints these kind of happy group of friends, and they become good friends there, and it does it in a way that seems a little unrealistic. And there's other stuff that, you know, I would call melodramatic in the sense of like sort of dramatic to the point of not feeling completely realistic or the way it would happen in real life. But at the end of the day, the acting and writing is so good that I really believe this friendship between these two people, and that's at the core of what makes this movie great. And also the progression of the story, the turn of what happens, the eventual, super satisfying ending. There's so many really memorable scenes. The scene where he on the top of the building where they're tarring the roof, and he convinces this guard, who's the toughest guard on the block, how he could save money because he was a banker or an accountant of some type in his life before this, and then ends up, it's this great scene where he gets drinks for everybody, and then they offer him one, and he says, "No, I quit drinking." And of course, that we end up finding out that what happened the night that he ended up getting convicted of the murder of his wife, which he didn't do. I mean, I can spoil this movie, it's 25 years old, but is related to, he was drinking that night, so probably that's why I quit drinking. So it's, and that's an example of things like tying together and sort of a well-written narrative and character development. It's like the development is meaningful. It's based on meaningful scenes from previously in the movie. It's real character development. It's not just like slapped on, even though that works, it's perfectly for that scene. So that's what's really, I feel like, masterful about this, is the sort of subtlety that they, the way that they make it convenient without it seeming too convenient, to me at least. Directing is solid, some great shots of the prison and the outside work areas and all that. Really great shots. The beautiful shot towards the end of the tree in the field where he hides the little tin for Morgan Freeman, where Tim Robbins does. And then the performances by the warden, by Tim Robbins and by Morgan Freeman, just murder this movie. It's so great. You really believe all these characters. You really believe they're friends. When they, the disagreements never feel forced. So many movies I see, and it's like, oh, now it's time for the friends to be fighting so they can make up at the end. Like that. There's like a couple of points where there's tension between them, and it never feels forced at all. It feels like it makes perfect sense and goes right exactly with the flow of the movie. And also, like, real friends don't just stop talking to each other. Like, I'm sorry, if you have in your life, you know what, like, you need to examine your friendship, because I got real boys, and like, we have all beefed in different ways, different times, but we can sit down and talk about it. Like, that's what true friends do. Like, you have to have a level of honesty and a self-awareness. So when that happens in movies all the time, where it's like, oh, this relationship or whatever just ends because something happened and they don't even talk to each other, and then all of a sudden they're friends again and shit. To me, it's like, it's not the way it is, for me at least. And a real friendship, and this friendship, you know, supported my idea of what it means to be a real friendship. So, you know, and what we're talking about here is, you know, basically perfect 10 movies. Like, these are movies that are just like, you know, it doesn't get better than this, really. So that's Shawshank right there. So then, next one for me is True Romance. True Romance was the first script written by Quentin Tarantino. It was rejected all over the place. Then he wrote Reservoir Dogs, that blew up, and then I believe after that, it was either after that or Pulp Fiction, they came back, they wanted to make True Romance, and he said, listen, I wrote that at a different time in my life, you know, I don't connect to the material in the same way, I can't direct it. So they got Tony Scott, the late Tony Scott, who's the younger brother of Ridley Scott, I believe. I know he's the brother, I believe he's the younger, and he's the guy that directed Last Boy Scout, Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2, you know, good director, poppy director, precursor like Michael Bay type, you know, funny action, but good with comedy and with actors. Anyway, and I love almost all his movies. True Romance, so it was directed by him. They took the script that Tarantino had written, and they removed the stuff that he does, which is the out of order stuff. So basically, it was actually, if you've seen True Romance, you know the movie. It was written out of order, and you didn't know the truth of whether they actually stole the drugs on purpose. Before one of the most famous scenes, one of the best scenes in the movie, is a scene between Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken, where basically he's saying, listen, your son stole these drugs from me. And at that point in the script, you didn't know if he had stolen those drugs, which is really interesting. I mean, it's a different movie the way Tarantino wrote it, because they haven't shown that first scene where he grabbed them completely by accident, but then just decided to run with it, because, you know, what are you gonna do? Go back where you just shot up a place and be like, hey, by the way, my bad, you know, can I get my clothes and like give the drugs back? So it's like he had to run. You know, leaving his ID behind was wilding. So Tarantino's first script, passed on directed by Tony Scott. Christian Slater, who's like not a great actor, but I loved him in like this role and in the kind of like the late '80s and the early '90s type, '90s mostly, I guess, movies. But I was younger. Patricia Arquette is a solid actor. Then you got, you know, Dennis Hopper, who's solid. You got Christopher Walken, who's great at times, can be great. You've got Gary Oldman in it. You've got there's a few others I'm missing. Some good comedic actors that I'm missing right now. The guy from damn it, can't think. Anyway, so I love that movie. I love the pacing. It's just to me, it's such a great. It's like a great romance movie. It's like I really believe they're in love, and I don't know. Maybe it's Patricia Arquette's performance, and maybe I had a little crush on her, and everything, and the directing and everything. I love it. I love it. And I might as well throw out there that Man on Fire is really up there for me too, and that's another Tony Scott film, and that's Denzel Washington. It's a remake, and it's just I love the style of it. I love the directing, the photography. I love it. The acting is great. It's great. It's a revenge story, which I love revenge stories. So you know that's up there as well for me. I really like the plot. I like the friendship a lot that develops in Man on Fire that I'm talking about now, between the girl Dakota Fanning when she was very young and your man Denzel Washington. So it's a great movie. See it if you haven't seen it. Okay, so let's try and move on to what else. Okay, so Shawshank I did. True Romance, 7. Okay, so 7, David Fincher is one of my all-time favorite directors. Amazing style. Very particular about the look of his movies. Very particular. Something that a lot of people don't know, I think, I didn't know until relatively recently, being a fan, is that he digitally alters a lot of his movies to add stuff in that he wants to have added in. So, stuff like, the background buildings, or the color of the sky, or all these little details in the scene, that you just take for granted, he like tweaks and adds and edits. And so he did that with Zodiac a lot. 7 he did not, because this was early on in his career where he hadn't, and it was so more purely just stylistic. And it's just great. It's an early performance from Kevin Spacey as the villain. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman again. Excellent. A little bit of a cliched, I want to retire cop role, but the rest of it's not at all cliched. Amazing ending. Amazing, just edge of your seat type thriller. Some would even, with almost horror elements. So dark, so well done, so good, so tense, so well shot, so well photographed, so well acted. It's just a really great movie. That's one of the easiest I can say is my top 5 for sure. Let's go to Goodfellas. Goodfellas, for sure, is one of the best mobster movies ever made. One of the best Scorsese movies ever made. Now, I'm going to take the jump and say it is the best mobster movie ever made. What's that? What did I say? Wait a second. But what about Godfather? Fuck Godfather. Okay, it's overrated. So basically, best mob movie ever made. Best Scorsese movie ever made. And I'm including Mean Streets. I'm including Raging Bull. I'm including Taxi Driver. Why? Because of my enjoyment of it, largely. Because of the polished style of directing. Because the consistent quality of the acting. I'm sorry, but those other movies, well, Taxi Driver's a close one. But the camera work, the photography, it's not as good. And if you say it is, then you're kidding yourself, because you want to hold on to that early work, which is maybe more original, but he couldn't afford to have the polish, and he didn't have the clout in the industry to have the polish, and then it was too early in the industry to have the polish. So, Goodfellas, amazing. Ray Liotta, best performance from ever. Love this character throughout. Bobby D killed it, and I'm not even a huge Bobby D fan like mad people. Not as overrated as Pacino, I don't think, but not as good as people say. Certainly not the best actor of our generation. Who's better actor right there? I mean, Ed Norton's a better actor, just off the top of my head, and there's plenty more. Well, there's a few more. Anyway, but Ed Norton's a better actor. Or if that's a generation below, then I don't know. Then I'd have to think about it. But there's definitely people that acted next to Bobby D that are better actors. Okay, so where else we at? So I got to put a Spielberg movie in there because it's I'm inclined to put Jaws. Jaws is a near perfect film. Spawn, the blockbuster genre, amazingly done. Doesn't show the monster for the first half of the movie. I mean, there's so many things that are just great about this movie. Had huge production trouble. Still managed to, skill it, make it look real enough, that you really felt it. Classic scenes like when it appears for the first time behind him out of the water, when it kills that dude. I mean, just really good. Okay, Saving Private Ryan, also amazing. I mean, just amazing, really. So, and then even Indiana Jones, one of the Indiana Jones might be up there for me, but I'm gonna probably say Jaws, just because it's the classic, and I feel like I know before I was going with the polished over originality, but I feel like it has enough polish, and it's so classic, and it spawned the blockbuster genre. I mean, it's just and I think there's a little bit more holes in Saving Private Ryan. I think that there's some scenes that aren't as strong as some other scenes. The first half hour of Saving Private Ryan is as good as any 30 minutes of film that's been anything that's been put on a film anywhere for that amount of time. But the rest of it has some holes. So I think that's my top 5 right there. So I said what? Schindler's List. No, I didn't say Schindler's List. I was thinking about that from a separate conversation. Somebody else said that Schindler's List. For me, that's not, and he won the Oscar for that. That's not Spielberg's best. For me, it wasn't. Subject matter wise, but to me, that's not, nearly as important as the look and the acting and the writing of a movie. So that's me. No, so I said Shawshank. I said Shawshank. I said 7. I said what's wrong with me? I said Jaws, Shawshank 7, Jaws, Goodfellas, True Romance. Yeah, it's my 5. All right. So there's other honorable mentions. I go down those later, but that's a good thing for now. So that's my top 5. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. Keep popping. Give me suggestions, anything really. I'm trying to grow the channel, So I'm just gonna be posting as much as I can, from all different spots. It's not always gonna be from home. And right now I was waiting for something from Costco, so about to go back in. So there we go. So that's my that's my top 5 right there. Sort of open to adjustment, but that's certainly, those top 5 are, I can feel confident saying they're definitely all in my top 10. But I feel relatively confident saying it's my top 5. So who know it? Lou know it.